सेक्सनको टपिक रहेको छ हाउ क्यान वी युज नेचुरल ल्याङ्ग्वेज प्रोसेसिङ एन्ड कम्प्युटर भिजन इन एग्रिकल्चर, जसको लागि आउँदै हुनुहुन्छ हाम्रो स्टेजमा वाइसयाक आइएनसी का फाउन्डर एन्ड चिफ साइन्टिस्ट प्रोफेसर डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्दरज्यूलाई म यस स्टेजमा आमन्त्रण गर्न चाहन्छु।
Control, slide control. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So after a really exciting talk on robotics and surgery, we are changing gears to look at AI in agriculture, right? So what I want to do now is at least give you some idea about how AI has been used in agriculture, what is the latest developments and trends, and also, secondly, more importantly, what is it we can do in Nepal in this area, and how the youth can be inspired to actually do some work in AI applications within agriculture. Agriculture being a really important topic in Nepal, and we are facing lots of crises in agriculture, especially due to climate change, especially due to our young people leaving the country and the lack of manpower in villages, in places where agriculture needs a lot of manpower. So the question is, can AI fill that gap? So that's a really important question, both for our youth and for our policymakers in terms of what we can achieve using AI at low cost in agriculture. I think earlier, the organizers also said that, can AI be an enabler for Nepal to leapfrog itself, right? And agriculture could be an important area where this leapfrog can happen. So, so how can we understand AI in agriculture? So obviously, AI needs data, right? Lots of data. So the question is, where's this data coming from in agriculture? So this is coming from IoT, right? So from sensors you put in the ground, your satellites, your drones, etc., right? In the simplest case, you're going to have a soil sensor that can measure the pH, right? That can measure the humidity, right? That can measure the salinity. So that is going to be like a very cheap sensor. And even that cheap sensor can give you a lot of information in terms of, how those parameters are changing over time on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, etc., right? So you're going to be collecting huge amounts of data. Similarly, using drones or satellites, you can collect lots of data, right? And now we can see drones being used manually, at least to begin with, to do irrigation, pesticide, fertilizer spraying, etc., covering large amounts of space. The good thing about the drone technology here is that, if you have electric battery operated drones, you don't need, you can charge your batteries using solar power, etc., right? So this is what's happening. So these are some things people have been doing for quite some time. And now moving on to satellite-based monitoring. So we know that a lot of this satellite data is available for free. For example, the ESA has got Sentinel satellites. It goes around the Earth many times, over a day, and you can collect satellite data for free, right? And then you can use standard computer vision algorithms to look at your specific area. You can look at disease spread. You can figure out how the disease is spreading. You can look at the changes due to climate change, right? You can estimate the crop yield. So you can do a lot of things by using satellite data. So satellite data is especially extremely useful for the government. So we can use it um, for, for crop identification and yield forecasting. As I said, disease spread monitoring, land uses monitoring, water resources monitoring, etc. So this is something I know that some companies in Nepal are already doing it, but again, I would encourage our youth uh, in terms of an area and application that anybody can do this from their room. Right? If you have a laptop, you can do this work, right? So it is really easy to get into this kind of area. So now, if we combine all of the things I've said earlier, so you have your IoT, which can measure the health of your land, your crops on the ground. And based on that data, you can do your AI-driven analysis, right? And then you combine that and put it onto a device. So the device can be anything. It could be a tractor, it could be, some farm equipment, etc. And you have, in some sense, a robotic agriculture, the beginnings of a robotic agriculture, right? So this is something that, again, we can do here in Nepal quite easily, right? So this is just the extension of IoT-driven sensing, AI-driven analysis, and combining all of that technology into a robotic, basic, very simple robotic platform. So if you look at a company called John Deere, this is one of the biggest uh, tractor companies in the US, they are rebranding themselves not as an agricultural company, but as an agricultural robotics company, right? Because everybody, so even companies, big agricultural companies see themselves as robotics company in the future. So here we see that they use drones and satellites, and you see this tractor, it is making this kind of S-shaped pattern. So those patterns are, automatically estimated based on the satellite data, and the tractor can do that navigation automatically. It has sensors on the ground to monitor crops, the healthy crops, disease crops, crops needing, more nutrients, right? Using computer vision algorithms. So if it sees some weed, it can, use a laser to kill that weed. If it sees that a plant needs more nutrient, it can automatically spray that, right? So that means your nutrient use, your fertilizer use, your pesticide use is now, precision, right? It is not based on the average for your farm, but is based on each individual crop in your large land. So this is going to like severely, drastically optimize your pesticide use, your nutrient use, and water uses, right? So, so now taking this to the next level and using, computer vision methods and basic robotics, we can look at sound, please. What has been developed at the University of Sydney. So we can see there's a sensing and, there's a spraying of the water, pesticides. So the robot is able to pick the fruits. It can automatically check whether your fruit is ripe or not ripe. And we can even have solar powered robot. Right? using basic computer vision algorithms. Okay. So what about the Gen AI, Chat GPT type of technology, right? So where could that be used? So one thing about this kind of data collection is that we're going to be collecting a huge amount of data, right? And agricultural data looks simple, but it is not because there are lots of factors, right? You're not just looking at um, as one crop or a small crop. If you have a large piece of land, you're going to, figure out, what is happening to different parts of your land, right? You are looking at the weather patterns. So there's a lot of data you're gathering, and it is going to be very difficult for a normal person to make sense of that data, right? So there, Chat GPT type of technology, Gen AI technologies can be extremely useful so that you can have your conversation with your data in like a normal natural language, right? And that is going to help the farmer, the decision maker, the user to make sense of this complicated data. So if you look at the value chain, the entire value chain for the agricultural industry, we can see that, in our current state, we have the agrochemicals, we have the water, we have the farm equipment, agri-processing, government, agri-finance, the farmer, the retailer, and the supply chain. So this is how this is broken down at this point in time. And the question is, how can AI get into this, right? So if you look at agrochemicals, then the use of precision chemical is going to help you optimize, the cost of the chemicals in your agriculture. Similarly, using the IoT-based sensing and the weather patterns, you can optimize the use of water. And low-cost robotics, we have an example here of a low-cost robot right here. So the question is, we can take advantage of these kinds of robots or build these kinds of robots to, help human beings or, help land where, the laborers are scarce. We can use AI-based imaging for sorting, packaging. Yeah. For the government, often resource allocation is a problem, right? So we need to decide how much rice should be sent to, I don't know, Dolka or in some remote part of Nepal. So we have to figure out, what is the optimal, uh, how we can do optimal resource allocation. Similarly, for finance, we have to do credit scoring. So if you're giving loans to your farmers, right? So then again, you can use AI to do risk scoring. For the farmer is always interested in, whether how much yield I'm going to make, how much profit I'm going to make, what is the market telling me? What is the weather telling me? What is the health of my farm telling me in terms of what is the amount of profit I'm going to make? Similarly, for the retailer is interested in demand. And again, the retailer is also interested in the profit margins. And for the supply chain, we have to use data from multiple sources, fuse this data to drive your analytics. So now coming to the second part, the question is, what is it we can do in Nepal, right? In terms of AI and agriculture. So as I said earlier, using basic sensors is, quite cheap. So we should definitely, experiment with using basic sensors so that we can start gathering the data and we can do IoT-based monitoring, right? So at this point in time, obviously there's no AI, right? So we just at the phase of collecting the data. So now there's a lot of work on using computer vision algorithms for plant disease detection, right? But the important point about any plant disease detection is that, if you simply borrow your pre-trained computer vision algorithm from, let's say, from Europe, it's not going to work very well in the Nepalese context, in the Nepalese crops, so you have to invest in terms of retraining the model, fine-tuning the model in the Nepalese context for the Nepalese crops. So that's what is needed. Similarly, as I said here, satellite-based monitoring is something we can do easily in Nepal. And as this example shows, we can easily invest in low-cost robotics. And as I showed you earlier, using Gen AI mobile interfaces is the way forward to make sense of complex data. So here's an example of low-cost DIY precision farming. This is open source, right? So you can buy this kit for maybe $2,000 and install it in your garden, and the AI does all the work.
Together with our
in terms of decide, so you can decide on a user interface what plants you want to, grow, and the AI can do that
FarmBot Express
fully automatically using
XL,
software.
the first FarmBots designed and built for everyone. FarmBot Express
This is like a full-fledged
by
printer.
taking care of your garden.
So imagine that you have this kind of equipment not on a fixed stand now, but now this whole equipment is, on a tractor, right? So if you put this whole equipment on a tractor, small tractor, it is going to be able to cover a huge amount of land, right? So this is something we can already do by using open source hardware and open source software.
95% pre-assembled in the box, so you can get set up in just 1 hour. Simply follow the online instructions to complete the assembly, mount FarmBot onto your raised bed, and plug it in. Robotic gardening has never been this easy. Using the FarmBot web app, you can monitor your garden and plan your growing season from anywhere. Our custom sequence editor now supports variables, empowering you with complete freedom and control over how your FarmBot works. Meanwhile, the drag and drop farm designer offers a game-like experience that is quick, intuitive, and fun to use. With built-in data for hundreds of the most common garden veggies, you'll be guided through designing an optimal layout in no time. What's more, with the Saved Gardens feature, you're just one click away from the next growing season and the next and the next. Using the onboard camera and advanced computer vision software, FarmBot can scan your garden multiple times a day, find weeds as soon as they emerge, and then remove them within minutes of being detected. FarmBot Express is 1.2 meters wide and 3 meters in length, perfect for the outdoor classroom, research lab, or small backyard. At 2.4 meters wide and 6 meters in length, Express XL is large enough to make fresh food the centerpiece of your home or school.
So I'm going to move on. So here are some of the projects we can do easily. So for example, for mushroom farms, for greenhouses in Nepal, the rats are a big problem, right? Especially for mushroom farms. So it is quite easy to use ultrasound both for detection and for deterrence of rats. Obviously, there is some research element involved here in terms of what kind of frequencies are going to be most effective, but this is a technology that's definitely doable. As I said earlier, there's a lot of open source software for plant disease detection, but using it in the Nepalese context requires customization and additional training. So this is something that can already be done. And again, importantly, I'm trying to go back. So the important thing here, what we need to do is that it's not good enough just to have a plant disease detection. In the future, we want to have a generative AI system on top of your plant disease detection, so you can have a conversation with the AI to figure out, why the AI thinks this particular plant is diseased, why it is not, right? So having that explanatory power using a Gen AI solution is going to be very useful. So again, as I said earlier, we can invest in low-cost precision agriculture, right, to help us optimize our yield, increase our yield, and also offset the lack of labor. And again, so this is a technology. So I know that this technology, at least one or two of the companies in Nepal are already producing this kind of technology for for some industries, but it has not been used in agriculture. So this is again something we should be thinking about when we want to do large-scale production and ship, the agricultural products to the supermarkets. So this is a technology we would need. Similarly, if we can look at low-cost health centers, like your Fitbit, you can get now these Fitbit type of devices for less than $10, right? And you can monitor the health of your livestock using these low-cost sensors. So thank you.